In this lesson, you will learn how to represent a proportional relationship algebraically. A proportion is an equation that shows that two ratios are equal. For example, if you had something that was like the ratio 1 to 2, and let's just say this is one candy bar for every 2 cookies, and you wanted to have a proportional relationship to another ratio, you could have something like 2 candy bars to 4 cookies, and this is a proportion that shows that these two ratios are equal. Another thing to note about proportional relationships is that you can only say that a set of ratios is proportional if they represent the same comparison between quantities. So it's not only the ratio or the value here, like 1 to 2, and 2/4 simplifies to 1 to 2, but it's also what they're comparing. So here I said 1 candy bar for every 2 cookies, and here I said 2 candy bars for every 4 cookies. So I'm talking about candy bars and cookies. Now, the other thing is that ratios are proportional if they can be simplified to the same unit rate or simplified fraction. We can use proportions to solve many real-life problems, and we're going to solve a problem together to understand how we can represent proportions algebraically. 6 students can fit in 2 rows. How many students will fit in 12 rows? So what we need to do is begin by writing a ratio for the number of students and the number of rows. So let's begin with the information we have. So we're going to write a ratio of students, which I'll represent with S, to rows, and you can represent this as a fraction as students over rows, okay? So this is what we're going to be working with. Now, we know that 6 students can fit in 2 rows, so that's 6 students, 2 rows. If we want to think about how many students will fit in 12 rows, we're going to have a ratio that's S to 12, right? Now the number of students that can fit in a row will be the same regardless of how many rows there are. If you increase the number of rows by a certain number, the number of students that can fit should also increase in the same proportion. And we need to keep these two ratios equal to one another to keep the proportional relationship. Now let's do this by converting these two pieces of information we have here, these two ratios we've written, into the fraction form of a ratio. So over here we would have 6 over 2, and this we have to set equal to S over 12. To solve for S, remember that the cross products of a proportion are always equal, and we can use this to set up the algebraic equation. Now cross products are right here, right? So if you multiply 2 by S and 6 by 12. When you find the cross products, you get the equation 2S equals 6 times 12. Now let's use this equation and solve for S. First thing to do is simplify the right side of the equation, and 6 times 12 is 72. So we've got 2S equals 72. Now we want to divide both sides by 2. So when we divide the left and divide the right by 2, dividing the left by 2, the 2's cancel out, and you're left with S. S equals 36. And putting this back into the context of the problem, this means that 36 students will fit in 12 rows. In this lesson, you've learned how to represent a proportional relationship algebraically. Happy solving!